Marc Geoffrey, and I play Anthony, Finley and Chris.
I'm Polly Lister. I play Michelle, who is Anthony's mum, and I play a 12-year-old called Barbara. I play an Irish Mother Superior and a prostitute who lives in Birmingham.
My name is Krissi Bohn, and I play Margaret, who marries Finley. I play Sister Hope, who is a nun, and I play Stacey, who lives in a commune. It's about a table.
Yeah, it's an epic tale of the life of a table through 6 generations of a family called the Best Family. And it's sort of what the table sees and, the witnesses of its life.
Yeah, it's the one sort of steady factor throughout all of these people's relationships, marriages, friendships, and all the rest of it. This is the thing that's always been there. And so it flies off to Africa, comes back again, ends up in a hippie commune in Herefordshire, and starts life out in Victorian Lichfield in Staffordshire. But it's the one constant throughout this entire story, and everything else that takes part around it.
I think this is a really special production. There's 8 of us, and yet we play between us about 22 characters.
22, I think.
You're seeing very real snapshots of very real lives unfolding and sort of coming up against each other across this table. So it's quite uncomfortable at times, and I think that's quite beautiful to watch. Sometimes that sort of visceral, both anger and passion and trauma, loss, grief, love, affection, like when you two first meet. I think it's special because you see real relationships blossom and break down.
I also think it's special because there is some beautiful, beautiful music throughout the whole piece, which sort of comes in and out of all of the different people's lives. Ed Lewis is an amazing composer, and he's arranged some beautiful choral stuff for us. And also for me, I just love the fact that it spans such a huge length of time. So you've got your modern family, you've got your family from Victorian times. It sort of crosses everything. So it's not just set in one era, as it were.
I realise that each and every one of the characters in this play is a real fully formed human being. Even though we only see tiny little moments of their lives, it's been so cleverly thought out and worked out by this group of actors that originally worked on it down at the National Theatre. They are very, very fully formed, and that's quite exciting, especially when some of these scenes, as I say, very, very tiny little scenes.
Being involved in a regional premiere is such a coup. I mean, it's gorgeous to know that unless anybody sitting at the New Vic Theatre was at that premiere in London after the whole workshop and sort of devised process that Tanya Ronder and all that team went through, no one has any preconceived idea of what this story is or who these people are. And so working on it with Zoe in the room was a real privilege.
And bringing it to Staffordshire, which is where it begins. And here we are in Staffordshire performing it in the Round, which is my favourite, absolutely my favourite space in which to perform. Just to bring it home and know what it sort of means to certain people around here and things like that. It is a local play, yet it speaks to everybody. I think we can all think about how items in our lives have been passed down from grandmas and things like that, and all the other people that have touched that item. Did do is made me think about this dinner service that is now in my possession that belonged to my nan's mum, and I never met my grandma. She passed away before I was born, and it just got me to thinking about my granddad, my nan's husband, who I'd never met. He died before I was born, and the fact that they sat down and ate from this dinner service every day, and my mum and my uncles and aunties, and even me as a small boy, it just got me thinking about all the different things that would have happened around a table, but specifically on this dinner service, and those conversations that would have been had, and fights, I'm sure. And it just got me thinking about that, and it took me to a really lovely place in my head, and just thought about this thing that I kind of take for granted. Oh, it's my nan's dinner service. That's kind of how I've always felt about it. It's lovely, but it just made me think about it in an entirely different way, and I really appreciated that, because there was some really nice little things came out. So yeah.
In the house that I grew up in Studley in Warwickshire, where my mum and dad still are, there is a table in the dining room, and we sit, whenever I go back and visit mum and dad, we sit at it. My dad does the crosswords at it, my mum fills in a diary around it. And I remember, as the youngest of my cousins, playing islands on it, and all my other cousins were sort of swimming around the bottom, pulling at my legs, because I was the easiest to scare, because I was the youngest and the most sort of nesh. So that's lovely. And then there's also a picture that my grandma painted, which both my brother and I are both desperate to have in our homes eventually. So we're vying for that. And then my granddad, my mum's dad, made a stool, and that I think is one of the prized possessions in our house. So yeah, there's quite a big tradition of handing things down in our family.
So having just had a little boy, this has sort of made me think about things that I have now that means something now, because he has arrived whilst I've had them. So although the table that I have in my house is from a charity shop and it's pretty battered, and one day I imagine having a beautiful oak, wonderful table, actually this little sort of not very amazing table means so much now, and getting rid of anything that has sort of a memory for you, I think is much harder, and doing this play has cemented that. So I'm going to have a rubbish second-hand table for the rest of my life.